Hello all, it's Dr. Wright. Today I'm going to show you how to find and take a look at primary sources, which we will use for this assignment. So let me share my screen. So here we are at the Northwest Vista homepage, and we want to we want to go to the library. So we're going to go to academics. We're going to hover over academics, and then we're going to click on library. Couple ways that you can do this. The easiest way that I have found is to type in your topic in OneSearch, which is this little bar right here. So we are looking for a primary source related to extroversion. Let's do that. And we'll click enter. Now, once we've got the search up, what we want to do is we want to make some specifications. So we want to retain our filters. That's important because otherwise each time you change your filters, it'll change them. We want to look for an article. So that will bring our numbers down. We want to look for content. We want something that is peer-reviewed. Remember that peer-reviewed means that me as a researcher, I have sent my article to the editor of the journal for possible publication. They've sent it out to 3 people whom I don't know and will never know who they are. And those peers have reviewed my article, so peer review, and they have sent feedback back to the editor with a suggestion for whether or not to publish the article. And then the editor sends me the feedback from the unknown peers and makes a decision as to whether or not they're going to publish the article with changes or updates as suggested by the peers. Okay, so that's what peer-reviewed means. Not all journals are peer-reviewed, so we want to make sure that our journal that we're using is actually peer-reviewed. You're also going to want full text because you don't want to just be looking at the abstract of an article. And this is, again, why retaining filters is really important because otherwise it will just change it every single time. Okay, so the next question becomes, how old of an article do I want? Science is always changing. My suggestion is last 5 years at the most. But, let's look for something from 2023 to 2025. It's weird to say 2025, but we are down to 862 results. I like it. And then that's the only one that we want to do. So let's see. This first one, extroversion, workplace support, and burnout, the marketing of neuroticism. So this is our article title. These are our authors. This is the year that it was published. The journal it was published in is right here. Personality and individual differences. The volume number of that issue is right there. This indicates, yep, it was peer-reviewed. And this is a short summary of the article. Now, if I drop this down a little bit, this should give me what we call the abstract, which is 150 to 200 word summary of what the whole entire article is about. And this is going to tell us, or it should tell us, whether or not it is actually a research study or a summary of a research study done by the authors, which is what we call a primary source. Okay, so remember, a primary source is where Me as a researcher, I've done a research project, I've gathered data, and now I'm writing it up and publishing it. And so in my summary or in my abstract, I'm going to indicate my sample size, number of participants that participated in my study. And that's kind of, if you're scrolling through articles and you're trying to find one that's a primary source, that's kind of a like big neon sign that says like, hi, I'm a primary source. Okay. So let's look through this summary real quick. And we're just going to scan. We're looking for numbers. I see 227. Let's read that sentence. Based on a final sample of 227 working adults. So this is an indication that this is a primary source. Okay. So if I was interested in extroversion, workplace burnout, or workplace support and burnout, then I would click on view full text. It's going to ask me to log in as well. And then it's going to ask me to do my secondary. And put the code in. And now it's going to redirect me back to my article. Okay. So in this situation, it's brought me to another page, so I just click View PDF. And voila, here it is. Okay. If I am a paper person, I like to like hold articles in my hand and highlight them and all that sort of stuff. If I wanted to print it out, I could use this button here. If I wanted to download it to my computer so I can read it later, I can do that here. And so let's take a look at this article. So let's talk about the different parts of a primary source. So again, here we have our title, our authors. These are the author affiliations, which basically means these are where these folks work or what schools or colleges they're associated with. These are the keywords that would be used to search for this article. So kind of the most important themes. Here's our abstract, our 150 to 200 word summary of the primary source. The introduction typically includes summaries of previous research that are about the same topic that indicate that the researcher's hypothesis or predicted outcome is correct. Okay, so here they're going to be summarizing the previous research. That's what goes on in the introduction. And sometimes the introduction will be broken down into sections. So in this section, they're specifically talking about the research relating to employee burnout and extroversion. The sections talking about burnout and support. Now, the hypothesis or the predicted outcome or the predicted expectation of what the researchers are going to find is typically located at the end of the introduction. It seems what they've done here is they have a couple of different hypotheses, and some are related to extroversion support and burnout because that's the section that it's in, right? So hypothesis one, there will be an indirect negative association between extroversion and burnout, coworker support, supervisor support. And so sometimes the authors will like really highlight their hypotheses like this, and sometimes they simply state them in narrative or sentence format at the end of the introduction. So if they don't do this as you're looking for the hypothesis, then you want to look at the end of the introduction before the method section starts, and you will see typically that they'll say, we hypothesize, we expect, those sorts of things. Those indicate that those are your hypotheses. Okay, so they have hypothesis 3 and hypothesis 4. So overall, these folks had 4 hypotheses. Remember, when you're summarizing a hypothesis, you do not want to take a direct quote from the researchers. As we're writing for psychology, we really want to paraphrase as opposed to direct quote in our writing. If you read through enough articles, what you'll realize is that most researchers are not direct quoting anybody else. They're paraphrasing. And you see all these links here? This is all of the in-text referencing that they're doing. So they are, paraphrasing this source, paraphrasing that source, paraphrasing that source. So the second part here is the materials and the methods. Materials meaning what questionnaires or what things did they give to the participants in order for them to fill out. And then the methods include what was the research method. So was it a survey? If I remember correctly, this is a survey. Was it an experiment? And then in this section, they will also go over the procedure. So how step by step the data was actually gathered. Okay. So here they're telling us about the participants. They were recruited via Prolific, and they completed 3 surveys, separated by time lags of 2 weeks. And so each week there was 1 survey. And then they summarized the measures. So they used 10 item markers from International Personality Vibing Pool. They used a survey looking at support, and then they looked at the Copenhagen burnout inventory. So those were the three measures that they used. Here is the results area. If you haven't taken statistics yet, the results area is going to look like Greek because it is. So, Greek, well, not Greek, but that's Greek. So, yeah, if you haven't taken statistics, this section, the results section, probably not your jam, and that's okay. You feel free to look at it, take a look at it, see if there's anything that you can pull out to understand, but if not, don't feel bad because it's basically, math applied to research. Now, here is the discussion area is where we want to focus if we are not able to understand the results area. This is where the authors are summarizing the results in words as opposed to statistics. Okay, so, and this is where they will tell you if the results supported or refuted the hypotheses. And this is also where they will summarize any limitations or potential problems with the research study. Okay. This is also where they might, if there's any sort of indications of conflicts of interest, they might talk about that here as well. So, for example, funding. They'll tell you about the funding. Research does not receive any specific grant funding agencies in the public, commercial, and nonprofit sectors. Perfect. And then this actually is newer content, but it's very useful. So credit authorship. Basically, so we've got 3 authors on this article. What did each do? How did they contribute? And a lot of times when we work in groups, we know that not everybody does the same amount of work, or that one person's really good at X while one person's really good at Y. This tells us what the actual 3 authors of the article did. So this is where we can kind of document like, hey, this is what work I did. Okay. And then, yeah, declaration of competing interest. If there was any sort of financial interest or anything like that, that's where they would put this information. Okay. So that is how we are going to use our Northwest Vista Library to find and understand a primary source. If you have questions about how that works, feel free to leave those questions in the comments or send me a message. and hopefully we can get those questions answered for you. Thanks.